hold on. It's not a bad idea. But what I think of is, it sounds great because I get to spend time with you and we get to go on a trip together, right?
Right.
Like, that's great. But actually, we got to do a whole bunch of driving. We're going to be sitting in a car, traffic, things like that, right? Juxtaposed with getting to hang out with you, listening to music, listening to podcasts, talking, right? It's all good. It's a balance, right? So I'm like, well, how is that going to be interesting? And the only other thing I think, are we there yet? Because I feel like that in multiple aspects of my life often tends to be what I journal about, is like, am I there yet? So with all that said, welcome back to In Residence. I'm Keith.
And I'm Laura.
Hey, Laura.
Hey, Keith.
How's it going?
It's going well. How are you?
I'm doing well. You had a big day today.
I did.
You did all the things.
I tried to do all the things.
You had a big list. I saw it. You're like, I think I overestimated how much I could do.
Yeah.
But I don't know if you did, though, because you kind of did it all, I think.
I did it all, but there was other things I left off the list that I didn't get to.
Okay, so what did you do?
I transplanted my seedlings into bigger pots.
And you stopped with that, right?
Yep.
You didn't do anything more?
No, well, I did some. So, got a massage, and I made my first ever homebrewed IPA, thanks to my sister and brother-in-law. They got me a kit for my birthday. So I was able to finally get it going. That was fun. You woke up to me brewing beer.
Yeah. Well, and I smelling burnt toast, so I thought there was something wrong.
No, I actually just made burnt toast.
Yeah. I'm like, that's not a great smell to wake up
Well,
to.
I said it was well done, I think is what I said.
Flavorful.
It did the trick.
So what's the spark to get us started here?
We have a couple road trips coming up, and
We have a couple?
yeah.
Oh, yeah, at the end of the month, too.
Yeah.
I'm focused
We're going
on...
to be back for a day and then turning around and going.
Pretty much.
Yep.
I'm focused on the first trip because it's just you and me.
Yeah.
And it's been, I think, several months.
It's in September.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
It's like going to be like 8 months.
Mm-hmm.
It's a long time.
A long time to not go and hang out on the road.
Go on a trip together.
Yes, go on a trip together. I don't know if you had this experience growing up, but when I was little, my family, we did quite a few driving trips. And within probably an hour and a half or 2 hours, once we got past the place that was familiar, I kept thinking, if not asking and bugging my parents, are we there yet? When our kids were growing up too, I think even last year, we often go to the Indy 500. Well, we do go to the Indy 500. We probably got just about an hour and a half away. And child 2, he's like, how much longer? I'm like, 10 more hours.
If we don't stop.
If we don't stop. And I guess you said you ask yourself that question a lot more philosophically, wondering, how long is this going to take?
Physically, long rides are hard, especially when you're younger, because it's usually not your idea. You're along for the trip. I think maybe that's how it can feel sometimes if I'm thinking about work or my art. Am I going with the flow too much? Am I not taking control? Saying, I want to go here. You have vision and you say, I want to go there here. And I feel like I'm more, that's where you want to go? I'm going to help you get there.
So are you the kid in the backseat of the car then, with me at the wheel, going, are we there yet?
No, I'm the one that's behind the wheel driving because I said, I'm going to help you get to where you need to go. I want to pack the car. I want to lift the heavy things. I want to do the work to get us to where you envisioned us going.
Mm.
And
I've never wanted you to just help me get to where I think we should go. I've always wanted you to have a sense of where you want to go. Same thing with road trips, right? I'm like, but what do you want to do? And you're always like, I don't care. What do you want to do?
Right. That's my point is that's not a muscle I'm used to exercising.
Yeah.
Because I was never part of designing the plan. And so that's why I'm trying to exercise that over the last few years now and getting used to that, saying, hey, I have something to say, or hey, I want to go do this. Like, I'm just not used to it. And it's, to me, I wasn't saying I'm just here to help you. That's something I enjoy doing.
Yeah.
Just like when I built the deck, when I fixed the dryer situation, right?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't really pick to do that. Like the deck, yeah, like we decided we need a deck. But like the dryer, that just happened. And then you go into fix it mode and get it done.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, I'm rambling too much about that. You're trying to trick me into talking about travel again. And the thing that comes up for me is, especially on road trips, it sounds very exciting at first because we get to spend time together. But then we're going to hit traffic and we're going to be on a long straight road for a while. And I'll be like, oh, are we there yet? The reality is it's going to be a lot of fun, but it's also going to be like, we're going to be in a car together for like 15 hours a day for a couple days.
Yeah.
And I tend to focus on the positives of that, which is hanging out and having conversations and listening to music and podcasts and books. But there undoubtedly will be, for both of us, oh, are we there yet?
It always seems a little longer than you think it's going to be.
Yeah. I think we cushioned it enough, though. Even this is like tempering our expectations, right? And like building in travel time on each side.
Yeah.
So anyway.
Thinking about, are we there yet? You brought up something not about road trips, but more about yourself and your goals. And I don't know if it's life in general, but am I there yet?
Yeah. Because that to me seems a little more juicy to talk about, right?
Okay.
And it's kind of where my brain has gone. The thing, like the blocks and the things that we hit on last time, imposter syndrome or comparison and all those things, and thinking, am I where I thought I would be? And we've talked about that before on here too. And I still have those feelings of like, oh, I thought I'd be here, or thought, I didn't see this part of the journey coming, but like, I feel like I'd like to say I feel like I'm okay with the way the journey is unfolding, but every now and then it's like, well, where am I going? I think that's different for me than you, because you are a visionary. Like you have that dreamer mindset, and you see a vision, whereas I'm a little more in the moment, I guess, or where, I don't know. It's not that I don't have dreams. It's just that, like I've said it before, it's like, gosh, do I lack ambition? or where's my motivation? Or I don't know.
Or so I'm thinking about, okay, do you remember Mario 2 on the gray box, Nintendo?
Yeah.
You know how they had kind of a map was the game board?
That's Mario 3.
Is it Mario 3?
Yeah.
I thought Mario 2 had that.
Super Mario Brothers 2 had Birdo the first time, and that would launch exit you. Nobody really liked it.
Yeah, that was...
Okay, so the map in Super Mario Brothers 3.
In Mario Brothers 3 then.
Where you got leaf power.
Yeah, and the raccoon tail.
Yeah.
Ba-doo-ba-doo. So I wonder, maybe it's more, I can see maybe the whole map and each of the steps along the way, or maybe you're just really focused in on what world are you on right now. And then once you accomplish that, now what? Does that?
Yeah. Well, what that brings up is like, I was raised and trained to be handed a map to follow. Whereas you seem to be more of the person, like you're the cartographer. You're the one that actually draws the map for herself. Whereas like I follow the map.
I'm sorry.
It's a compliment, by the way.
No, I'm laughing right now because it reminds me of when I've ever tried to build Lego or build furniture. I go about 70% of the way following directions, and then you normally have to come and backtrack.
Yeah.
And figure it out.
Well, it's helpful when you're building bookshelves and furniture, for sure. Putting tab A into slot B very helpful. And knowing the difference between a 1.75" screw and an 1.5" screw, and actually paying attention to that little 1/4" difference. It's a big deal.
Or a 3x2 block or a 3x4. Is there a 3x4 block with Lego?
Probably.
You got to know the difference of those two. I've made some whoopsies on that.
I don't want to sit and talk about like all of my hesitations and things like that.
Yeah.
I think that's the fun part of the road trip is I don't need it all planned out anymore. Like the last few we went on, it's been a while since we've been on a road trip to somewhere we haven't been. Over the last few years, it's like we'll go across the state, and we've done that trip before.
Right.
But we used to go to places we'd never been. And after I got used to that, the uncertainty, used to we've never been here, but let's try out that place to eat. It's fun, right? And I mean, even on our last trip, we tried a few different places we'd never been in some different cities. And it's always like a little bit like, is this going to be okay? Is this going to be good? And it usually turns out, right? So my point is how do I do that with projects? How do I do that with posting a video, talking about something I care about, whether it's music or writing or whatever?
So when you have a project or something you want to do you ever put together like a project map or a project plan?
I mean, I did with the deck, but if say we're talking about, like I have ideas for maybe some videos that would be helpful for people, whether it's around using the software I use for editing audio or for using some other platforms that I've like found my way around, and the way I do it and the things that I found out, like the shortcuts. Oh, this might help other people do the work they want to do too. Well, why don't I simply make a video about that? Like why, and it's like, well, if I went through a process, like a planning process, wrote down the steps that I think they are, and then just start or just start, and then realize like, oh, I'm not quite sure how to do, like, that's usually like how I get through a project, right? Is I start. So it's like, why am I not starting? Why am I not getting out of the driveway? Too many road trip metaphors.
So good. And maybe that's what you're seeing in me. I'm really good at putting together a project plan or project map. Once I am clear about at least where I think I'm heading.
Yeah.
I love making a plan and then just working that plan.
I think what's even more striking to me is you're even better at taking the first step of starting. Like you brewed beer this morning.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I know.
And it's the only reason you haven't started until now is you literally didn't have the time.
Well, and I also, so this is actually a planning thing. Mm-hmm. I knew that there's certain steps because our brother-in-law, when they gave it to me for my birthday, by the way, thank you. He talked me through the different steps. And then I reread everything this morning. So I had a really clear sense of not just the timeline this morning of how to actually brew it and get it into the first fermenter container, but what has to happen in 1 week, what happens in 2, 3, 4. So I could make sure that those key points weren't going to happen when we weren't going to be here. I wanted to make sure that I was doing it on a day when I wasn't in Chicago for a conference, when I wasn't going to be in Indy, right?
Project management.
Exactly. So the timeline, I tried to thread that needle so I could be here when I needed to be.
So I'm good at that, but I'm not usually the person I'm usually being told about the project that needs managing, not the one starting the project. And you know what I mean? I think that maybe that's the subtle difference. And if I can do it for other people, why don't I do it for myself?
Because you have enough going on with everybody else.
True, I guess. Yeah. Well, and then I think it's maybe plot the things out, think about the timeline, and be realistic about it. And that's one of the harder things to get over. It's going to take some time, but it's going to take longer if you never start.
Right.
If it takes a month instead of 3 weeks, well, at least you're still getting it done. But if you don't start, that month clock never gets started,
It's true.
All right.
One of the things I really like about road trips with you, and you talked about this a little bit, I really like discovering new things, and not like super fancy new things that are unique and different and special. So here's maybe an example. When we went out to Green Bay for our anniversary, had a vacation together, we found the cutest little brewery in Shawano downtown. And it was almost like it was this old theater. What? Right?
You're describing it as the cutest. And I'm like, what?
It was.
They had food and they had beer.
No, but it was
a nice atmosphere.
It was nice. The atmosphere is really nice. And you're like, hey, should we try that? Because we had driven and it was late and we were hungry.
I think we saw the billboard, right?
We saw the billboard.
It's like the only time.
Billboards do work sometimes,
the
apparently.
The only way a billboard works is if it's in the middle of nowhere between here and there.
Right.
It's like, stop putting them in cities. It doesn't do anything. All back roads in all the flyover states. That maybe it's a good investment.
What I was trying to kind of make the point of is that I really enjoy those small things that you don't anticipate that you get to enjoy along the way. I think that probably is similar with if you're creating a project, even if you know kind of your steps. For me, where I have a plan and I'm working my plan, there are some things that are more delightful than I anticipate them to be. So one thing I'm working on and have been, but I have a plan for working towards becoming a college president. And part of that plan is understanding where are the gaps that I have that I need to learn more before I pursue a role like that. One of the areas is tapping into my network of really understanding people that are in those roles and learning from them as a mentor type role. And I was so nervous to ask anyone to be my mentor, even though some of my good friends are in that role and would happily be that person for me. I was really nervous, but I have to say the mentor that said yes, it's just been so nice and more amazing than I thought it was going to be to have someone in that role. I know that sounds maybe small, but I guess what I was trying to say is that some things, even though you know they might be a good step or you might enjoy them, sometimes something surprises you because it's simply delightful. Does that make sense? It's just a little more whimsy and happiness to it.
That's you.
No, so maybe I'll go a little further, because it's not simply that I've reconnected and we've carved out time to have good conversations with each other. I had the opportunity to go and visit his campus, and he toured me around the campus and showed me everything. I'm getting goosebumps right now because it was just so amazing.
Why?
Because I got to see him in his element, leading and being the leader that I know him to be. We were able to not just tour around and see buildings, but we were also able to go to different events. So we went to an event where folks were graduating with their GED or HSED. And it was just the whole room full of families, proud kids of these graduates. And knowing that the institution was able to help them complete that step of getting their GED, their HSED, when they hadn't been able to complete the diploma for whatever reason that was, that this institution was able to really make that important step and opportunity for the community and people in the region to achieve that goal that they had for themselves. So that's what I kind of mean of that. I knew it was beneficial, and I knew I was so grateful to be able to have him as a mentor, and still do to this day. But I don't think I anticipated that delightfulness again, or magic. Like it felt almost, I felt very fortunate and grateful to be able to have that experience in that way.
You got to witness people go through this transformation, right?
I did. And I didn't know I'd be doing that when I showed up that morning.
Right. Like the impact that your profession had on these people's lives, right?
Right.
And how it feels on your life, right? Or
right. Like I said, I still get goosebumps.
Yeah.
When
Oh, I can see
it.
I can see it on you. So my guess is you got to see him interact with these people.
I did.
How did that feel?
It felt really good. It felt good because you could just see how proud he was of them and how excited they were that he took the time to come and celebrate with them. And it was just really great.
I mean, that's what all the work that you do that nobody sees is about.
Yeah, right.
I mean, that's just what I'm sensing. And yeah, I understand the feeling.
So we're going to Nashville, and you haven't been, and I was there but a long time ago and didn't do a whole lot.
You got me a harmonica.
I did get you a harmonica. That's right. From the Grand Ole Opry.
I don't know where it is, but
oh, I'm sure it's somewhere.
It's probably in my stack of music stuff.
Probably. We're going to Nashville. So we know where the destination is. And we were kind of talking about what sort of things could we do, and we haven't gotten a whole lot planned. But right now it's playoff season for hockey.
Yep.
And you mentioned a little bit, you're like, well, the Predators are in it. If they're in it and they play while we're in town, maybe we could do that.
Yeah. I mean, it could be hard to get tickets to a playoff hockey game, but the idea of it, if it could be possible, I was like, I'm cheering for the Predators because the possibility of playoff hockey game where we're going to be, that sounds like a lot of fun. If it were to happen and it all lined up where it was feasible to go.
So the smile on your face right now, and just that excitement, shifting it back to the idea of projects and things that you want to do or accomplish. Have you thought about capturing that feeling you have about playoff hockey in a city that we're going to be? And what does that look like for where you want to go?
Okay, you might need to coach me through this.
Okay.
So my first thoughts are similar to things I've said before, which is if I can get out of the worry of what could go wrong and simply go about doing the work that I've decided to do, if a problem arises, I'll figure it out. I've got many years of experience problem solving in the cabinet shop, with guitar building, whatever it is. The thing is the stopping myself before I even start. But if I start, then I know the next step and then the next step, and then a problem comes up. Okay, Google, how do I fix this, right? Shifting from the worry mode that prevents me from even starting to when I'm working on that, this might happen, the possibility, right? Versus the uncertainty that I've said a lot. But that's that shift I'm really trying to make, but I still feel a little stuck. That's why I'm bringing it all up, I guess, but just gotta get out of my own head. But anyway, so you were saying what?
Like something that would be in the future state that could potentially really excite you and have you be like, oh, like one thing I'm thinking in the future, if your path takes you to a place where perhaps you get to collaborate with Seth Godin.
Yeah, so like collaborating with somebody I look up to or someone you respect,
someone you admire.
Yeah. So that's that. What is that? Is that allowing myself to think it can all work out? That's something I maybe don't let myself think too often. I think about what could go wrong. I just said that, I guess, before, and I'm trying to not do that.
So if you're thinking about going along your path, getting to where you're going, and something that is simply delightful along the way, what are some of those things that would just be delightful for you?
Like those are the things I don't know if I'd let myself think about.
Or what are some
Right.
things that,
No, but like that's my point is like, oh yeah, I need to let myself think of what would be awesome. Right.
I will say though, so my example, what made it delightful is it wasn't expected. And I had to experience it before the delight occurred, right? So if
I think I need to pick something, follow through, do it. It doesn't matter if it's a success or a failure. Whatever that is, it's probably subjective based on what I think. Those are the types of things I'm doing. And then just do it again or do another one, right?
has there been anything that's been delightful for you since starting the podcast? Because this is kind of the project that you're really driving.
Yeah. I mean, getting feedback from people saying that they listened and they enjoyed, this part or that part, or really liked something you or I said, that feels great because that's like a connection. That's what I'm probably seeking to make, is better connections for people as well as for me, because it feels great to do that. And so I think it comes down to that, being okay with being seen and being heard, even if it's not perfect.
I'm just smiling because I know there's things that I don't think you necessarily or I anticipated through this process that have been delightful. Like you said, some of the feedback, right, that we've gotten and that people are actually listening.
Yeah. Well, I never thought we'd have comments, let alone, I think I said before, that's right. People know me and they have my number and they can text me and say they listen to the podcast. Like that blew me away. I don't know how I deflected that and like didn't have that. Like I didn't think anybody was going to listen.
Yeah.
But yeah, I want it to grow.
Yeah.
And so that means I need to stretch and grow myself. A lot of that is simply starting and doing the next thing and doing it better the next time.
I'm bringing it back to the road trip analogy because I think it makes sense to go here, and I'm going to see how much travel talk I can make in one episode. Sorry. When you get to the destination, what is the first thing that you do?
Like a heavy sigh of relief. Like on a road trip, it's like, oh, thank goodness.
Yeah. I know one thing that I do. So if we're at an Airbnb, I want to make sure I understand the entire landscape.
Oh, you make me go around with a flashlight and check all the closets.
I do, actually. I do all the closets.
The basement.
Any creepy attics.
Yeah.
Yeah, just to make sure I know no one else is in the house.
Sweep the perimeter.
Yes, all that sort of stuff. But I'm thinking just from a project standpoint, like that sweeping the perimeter, checking everything out. It's almost kind of like once I arrive at something, I kind of look around and just get my bearings so I can enjoy where I've arrived. Does that make sense? You said that you have a sigh of relief, like, oh, finally. Do you think that's how you are with projects as well? Or
I don't know if I focus on the finality of it as much as it's like, okay, that's done. Good. It's off my plate. In my previous work, there was always another project right around the corner in another stage, or multiple projects at different phases of the process. Whereas like with the podcast, there was maybe 2 weeks where I was ahead of schedule and then something would come up or we'd get sick or something like that. So not quite there, but I think my tendency is to not sit and enjoy arriving. Okay, and now what's next? Except for, I guess, when we are on vacation or like on a trip, let's sit here and chill in this new space. And I like having something to do. I like having projects. That's part of, to kind of call back the other episode when we were talking about, oh, wow, Keith gets cranky when we travel. It's because I don't have a project. I've gotten better with that. There's always something I can do now with the iPad or even my phone, or it's like just grab a notebook and like think through something, right? Or write. But my work used to be, I would have to be with my tools. And so I would get kind of fidgety, not being able to make something with my hands. So it's shifted a little bit, learning how to create with the digital or just writing and having that to kind of scratch that itch of needing to work on something. That's good, because when it was all woodworking and then we would go somewhere where I couldn't do that, I would get like a little restless and feel like I wasn't doing anything. And sometimes the point is to not do anything. I don't do well with that all the time.
You don't. I was going to say, you don't sit still well. You can sit still well, but your brain has to always be going.
Yeah. And that's something for me to address and to be okay with. The other thing too is I like alone time, but I usually am listening to something, so I'm never actually alone. Right? Yeah. That again, I'm going to like dare myself to go on a walk without my AirPods one of these days and see what happens.
Honestly, it would be an interesting experiment for you. A couple of years ago, my therapist told me on the way home from work that I should listen to nothing. It was like hour commute. No music, no talking on the phone, no listening to a book, nothing, just silence. And it did not work well for me. But I could see how it would be important to try and do that for yourself.
I actually did that a little bit earlier today and earlier this week. And the only reason I noticed is because I noticed and I was like, wait, put something on. And I'm like, wait, hold on. It's been quiet for probably 10 or 15 minutes and you've just been moving around, having thoughts. Do that for a little longer. And then like 5 minutes later, I'm like, okay, put on some music, But I caught myself doing that actually. I forgot about that. But I noticed it earlier today when I was down here cleaning up and I didn't have anything on.
Yeah.
I mean, the screen was on and I think the screensaver came on.
Mm-hmm.
But there was like no sound, no music. That was after I played guitar though. I played guitar today for a little bit.
That's good.
So that was fun. I started rambling. I don't know if I addressed anything you were trying to ask me.
No, I think you did.
Like the "Are we there yet?" It came up, and that's not how I want to approach this journey we call life. But I do have to acknowledge that I feel that sometimes a bit of a pressure to do something or to reach some pinnacle, right? But I think thinking that gets in the way of actually doing something. I mean, it's not like a midlife crisis or anything, I don't think, but it is interesting that, because I think I thought more of it when I was like 25 than, being over 40 now. I do need to like set my eye towards the horizon a little bit though, and just go for it.
Yeah.
And I'll get there when I get there, but enjoy going for it, I think. That's maybe what's been in my subconscious that popped to the surface after we've had the discussion. So, do you have anything else?
What you were just saying resonated with me, just about how you don't want to approach life with the mindset of, are we there yet? I think about that a lot because, I set a lot of goals. I like, okay, where are we headed? I can see that horizon, that future state really strongly. At the same time, I never feel like I fully arrived. And I don't know if I ever will feel that I fully have arrived. I'll be thinking, okay, so where to next?
Yeah, and being okay with that alleviates, from my perspective, that pressure I was talking about. Being okay with letting go of when am I getting there takes the pressure off. And the only other thing, when you're doing the 6 things off of your list, 3 of them at a time, and I'm kind of like off to the side watching, and I'm like, you can maybe take some of those irons out of the fire. In the same sentence, it's like, I could probably have a few more irons in my fire. We're an interesting couple, I think. I don't know. I feel like I should take a cue from you, and I could do a little more, and you maybe save those other 3 things for another day,
Yeah, it's true. Sometimes I do overestimate what it is that I can do in a day. I think this morning I was starting to feel it when I had the plants halfway done. I had the beer in the fermenter, but I had to wait for it to cool to put the yeast in according to the directions. I had to go do a grocery pickup and then I had to get going so I could relax, right? Hurry up so I could relax. Appointment to get a massage. And
So privileged.
I know. There was a point that I thought, why did I think I could get all this done? The beer is not cooling fast enough. I don't know if I should just wait. You phoned a friend, which was pretty awesome.
I problem solved for you.
You did problem solve. Yes. I could, what was it? I could pitch.
Apparently that's what that's called.
Yeah.
I learned that today.
Yeah. So that was good. So I was able to toss in the yeast, snap on the lid, call it good. But yes, I probably could have waited to start my plants until this afternoon. That would have been better, maybe.
You got it all done.
That's true. I did get it all done.
Show off. All right, let's get out of here.
Okay.
You been watching anything or listening to anything?
I'll throw out one thing I listened to today. As I was doing some things, I listened to Wiser Than Me with Julia Louis-Dreyfus and Billie Jean King. Really interesting episode. Really good. What about you?
I've been watching the Bon Jovi documentary on Hulu, and it is amazing and nostalgic and interesting. So if you feel like a throwback to the 80s, go check it out.
Gosh, I love John Bon Jovi. He's so cute.
Yeah, he is. All right, let's get out of here.
Okay, sounds good.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
I've got some work to do, like mental work, thinking through that.
Yeah.
So I'll get on that.
Well, if you want help, let me know. I'm great at making a Gantt chart.
Oh, no. Gross.
What do you mean gross?
Oh, no.
They're incredibly freeing.
I've heard some people say there's better things out there nowadays.
There probably are. There probably are better things. What? I'm just making sure my verb's agreeing with my noun.
Good luck.
I don't always hear it.
No, you don't.
Just cut that out. Okay.
Why do we gotta talk about traveling and road trips? Like, who wants to hear about that?
I like road tripping with you. Ba-doo, ba-doo.